So what is the coolest thing you've seen on a reef? Like, we'll say reef check and beyond, but let's just give people an idea of kind of the neat things you've seen out while diving.
Oh my gosh. The fun part is that if something big comes along and it's on the transect line, you get to record it. Don't laugh, we're such nerds. But
something big? How big is big to you?
Oh, like a 8-foot giant sea bass.
There you go. That's a big
big
one.
Yeah. So we were surveying Casino Point, and it was mating season. So you could look down and see 10, 12 giant sea bass at a time.
When is mating season for giant
July,
sea bass?
August. Yeah, July, August is the big party in the kelp forest.
Okay. I may have to make a trip out to Casino Point soon.
It's spectacular. It's just spectacular. But here we are all geared up with our survey. We've got our slate and our pencils and our transect lines. And we're down on the ground facing the rocks, and above us are 13 giant sea bass. And our job is to do the work. And we're counting fish. We're counting 1-inch and 2-inch fish. And I look over my shoulder, and there's 2 giant males looking at me. And then we're
hopefully not in a romantic tone.
No, no, they defend the girls. They bark.
Okay.
They bark at you if you get too close. And then every single one of us on that dive had at least one sea bass swim across our transect. So we got to record it, and then we got to argue over how big it was. Like, how many centimeters was it? I don't know. It was big.
Yeah, they're hard to judge size because they are just an imposing force.
They're
in the
massive.
water.
Yeah, and then just lobsters. It's so fun to find lobster. It's so fun to find octopus. When you roam around with a camera, you find them all the time. Yeah. But this becomes like a Sudoku game where I've only got a 6-meter swath and 30-meter distance. And in that rectangle, how much can I find? And when you start finding
it's a scavenger hunt.
It's a scavenger hunt.
It's a scientific scavenger hunt. That's super fun.
It is. And then to see things change, to come back to the same place year after year and watch the kelp level change or the fish change.
That is one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is the joy of diving a spot regularly. Some people dive a spot and they're like, I've seen it, I'm good, like whatever they saw on that particular day. But if you go back to a given location, you get a sense for its seasonality.
Yes.
And you get a sense for the variance in the types of things that you see. You know, you see one critter come in during this time of year, and you see another one come in during another time of year. And, you know, they don't kind of coexist, or they vaguely coexist at different times. And you see, like you said, mating behavior where everything comes in, and, you know, other times where they're not there at all.
Right. Or there's a year where there's suddenly seahorses at Veterans Park. Seahorses.
That year.
Crazy.
That year blew my mind.
Yeah. So variety is fun, but when it's your own backyard and you've dived it many times, it's fun. And Reef Check does that for you. It takes you back to the same place year after year, or you pick different areas, and there's just this sense of knowledge.
You really get familiar with the place.
You do. And I loved in college knowing the names of all the seaweed, the fish, the invertebrates. I had to. It was for a test. And I felt really good about knowing that. And then I forgot it all. And when I came back to diving for fun, it was really hard to learn everything. And it was like going to work at a new job and not knowing anybody or what they do. And Reef Check offered to teach us all that again. And it was like a new job. And suddenly I knew what Garibaldi did, and I knew what senorita fish did and why they look like female rock wrasse, but they're not. And it was fun to get to know the names and what they do. And then I'd go down to my favorite reef and I'd recognize what was going on.
Well, how true is it, the more you know what the fish are, the more you see them?
Absolutely. When your brain remembers a name, now you remember what it does. And then you remember next time it does something different.
I always know when I'm diving with like a Reef Check volunteer, because they'll be like, did you see the blah, blah, blah algae? And I'm like, no, I don't know the names of algae. I have no idea. It's the red-green one that kind of looks like a wavy thing. Okay, yeah, I saw that. But they get excited because they're like, oh, that's kind of unusual. But if you don't know the name of it, if you don't know what it is. So I see a higher level of awareness of the reef when I dive with somebody who does Reef Check.
Oh, yeah.